Gene, we're live? All right. All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to City of Newberry's Historical Architectural Review Board meeting tonight, Monday, July 1st. First thing we're going to do is let's have a... Has everybody had an opportunity to read over the agenda for tonight? All right, is there a motion to accept the agenda?
Move to approve the agenda. Second.
All right, we got a motion from Mr. Conrad and a second from Naeem. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion passes unanimous. If you can at this time, I'd like everybody to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. And Mr. Conrad can lead us, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Has everybody had an opportunity to review last month's June 3rd meeting minutes?
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right. Motion passes. All right, I see no announcements, so that'll take us right into old business. Old business is going to be, it's an update. It's a status of ordinance 2019-14, which is an application for the LDR 19-05 by the City of Newberry, amending the Newberry, Florida Code of Ordinances, Article 11, Historic Sites and Structures Preservation Regulations, Section 11.11. Approval of changes to landmark and landmark sites to provide for an administrative approval process for specified types of changes. Ms. Wendy.
Mr. Chair, good evening.
Good evening.
This is just an update on the ordinance that you all had asked to have gone through the process. It went to the Planning and Zoning Board and to the City Commission for 2 hearings before them. It was adopted on June 10th, so it is in effect, and I believe a copy was passed out to each of you tonight. Oh, I have them. Okay, all right. Well, then I get the honor of passing them out.
Thank you.
So those are 3-hole punch, so you can add them to your books. All right, so we just wanted to make sure that you knew, and then you can kind of go through. We still have the underlying strike through, so you can look through to see what was done, which you had seen last time.
Okay.
So that's about it on that.
Chair,
Yes, sir.
just like to say thank you to the staff for all the work you did to make this happen. It was a lot of digging and research and legal as well. You say this is tuned to my voice, right, Gene?
Yeah, way down.
You must be tuned to a much softer spoken person. But anyway, it's going to make a big difference. It'll make it a lot easier for the citizens.
And staff has much more to do with this than legal, to be quite honest about that, so I don't want to take the credit for that, but I appreciate those comments. They've done a really, really good job putting this together.
Wendy and Brian and whoever else had a hand in it, we appreciate it. Mostly Wendy. That's it, Mr. Chair.
I just realized that I was looking at the Historic Architectural Review Board meeting agenda for that old update. So we'll get back to that for the HARB.
Well, I thought we decided we're going to do the hard first.
Oh, really? I missed that meeting. I didn't get the memo.
It's in the minutes.
It's in the minutes. All right, so we are doing Harb then, right?
Yes.
Okay, well then, welcome to the Historic Architecture Review Board meeting, which is, I think is what I said, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, we have no new business then. And topics from members for discussion. 9. Or actually, we got election of officers under this form. So let's talk about election of officers. We have our full board up here. No.
Jessica Baker.
Okay.
Exeter.
Then, yeah, we got. Alright. So, do we want to put the election of officers off until we have our other 2 members back? Or do we want to go through with it today? Last time we did it, we put it off till we had a full board.
Do we have a quorum?
Well, we have a quorum, but we're electing officers, so, I mean, the decision is y'all's, whatever you wish to do tonight.
When we added 2 more voting members, did that change the quorum number, or is the quorum still 3? I would move that we put it off. Because we missed Mayor Marlowe, who's not voting, and the other members.
Yeah, okay. I've got a motion to delay the election of officers.
Motion to table.
All right, motion to table.
Table till time certain next meeting.
All right, so we've got a motion to table, we've got a second to table. All in favor of the motion, or any discussion from anybody on the floor regarding the motion that's on the floor? Any public comments? All right, there being none. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. We'll table it to our next meeting. All right, with that, we will adjourn the Historic Architectural Review Board meeting. Do we add anybody for planning and zoning? So we got, Gavin's not, oh, you're Gavin. Yes. Okay, Gavin is here, so we're missing Jessica from this one and Mayor Marlowe. Okay. All right. Calling, welcome to City of Newberry Planning and Economic Development Board, Monday, July 1st. Has everybody had an opportunity to review these minutes?
Move to approve the minutes.
Or the agenda, I'm sorry. Let's call it what it is.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah. Move to approve the agenda.
All right, we got you seconding? Okay. We've got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right. Has everybody had an opportunity to review June 3rd minutes for the P&Z?
Move to approve the minutes.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. We have no announcements. We have no old business. That takes us to new business. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 items under new business. We will start with A, which is a quasi-judicial public hearing, application CPA 19-03. It's an application by Pat M. Post and Toby Barton, Turlington Trust, owners, to amend the future land use plan map of the comprehensive plan by changing the land use on the properties previously voluntarily annexed to the city as shown on the location map below and identified by Alachua County parcel numbers 02515-003-008, 02515-004-000, 02515-004-001, and 02515-004-002 from Alachua County future land use of rural agriculture to City of Newberry land use classification agriculture. If this passes, the date it will be first heard by the City Commission will be July 22nd. All right, it's quasi-judicial. There we go. All right, being a quasi-judicial procedure,
Mr. Chair, and I apologize for the interruption, but I think what I'm going to suggest here, as you are about ready to run us through what the procedure is, we do have 6 quasi-judicial public hearings tonight. So after some discussion with staff and legal, we're going to try to consolidate this process a little bit. Okay? So when we swear in witnesses, we're going to ask that anybody who has any intention or thinks they may want to testify at any point on any of the quasi-judicial hearings that are on the agenda, not just application CPA 19-03 that the chair just read to us. It would apply to the subsequent application LDR 19-08, application CPA 19-04, LDR 19-09, CPA 19-05, and LDR 19-10. So the procedure that the chair is about ready to read through will apply to all 6 of those hearings, and then we will also swear everybody in simultaneously, if that makes sense. So we don't have to do it 6 times.
Mr. Attorney, do you have the updated copy of the procedures? I've got an old one here.
I'll tell you what, I think I've got an extra one right here.
I've got the whole envelope right here, but I've also got the headphones wrapped around my foot. Safety first.
Janine,
They're in there, yeah.
I got
All right. The procedure is to ensure that the applicant provides a complete presentation of the request prior to any testimony being provided by the staff. The procedure we'll use is that all public testimony will be taken under oath. Everyone testifying will be subject to cross-examination. All documents and exhibits shall be entered into evidence. The giving of opinion testimony is limited to experts, and closing arguments will be limited to the evidence of record. Procedure will follow this evening is that we will first hear from the applicant, and there's no time limit. The applicant will then be subject to cross-examination. The staff will then enter the staff report into the record and answer questions. The applicant will have the opportunity for rebuttal of any testimony against the application. Then the floor will be open for public comment, and each presentation will be limited to 5 minutes. Members of the public will have an opportunity to question the applicant or staff. The applicant will have an opportunity for closing arguments, and then public hearing will be closed and the commission will enter into deliberations. At this time, I'm going to ask the board if there's any ex parte communications regarding any of the items that are coming before us tonight. And I've got no ex parte communications, but I do have a possible conflict of interest that I would like to present and find out if it's an actual conflict of interest. One of the applicants Mr. Pat M. Post is the owner of a property I lease from him for my business, but I am unsure how that would apply to anything that he is asking for this evening.
And you're referring to the first two quasi-judicial hearings.
Correct, A and B.
Our recommendation would probably be to have you recuse yourself. The question I have, though, under our LDRs is whether that leaves us with 3 voting members if we still have a quorum. Okay, and so I would recommend to err on the side of extra precaution here and recuse yourself from the vote
Okay,
on both matters.
all right. Well, then I publicly will recuse myself from A and B.
Now, you can participate in the question and answer
but not
examination.
through the vote.
Right.
Okay. So I will abstain from voting on A and B. Can I still conduct the A and B as chair?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So at this time, I'm going to ask for the applicant to come up and make their presentation.
And actually, before we even do that, let's have everybody, we'll swear everybody
Oh,
in at
you
this
didn't
point.
do that part yet?
Yeah.
I missed it. I didn't
So
get that memo.
anybody who has any intention at all, staff, applicant, experts, who plans to testify at all this evening, neighbors, please stand and raise your right hand.
Any of the 6, right?
Correct, on any of the agenda items.
Do you all solemnly swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yeah.
You're all duly sworn.
All right. Now, at this time, would the applicant like to come up to the podium and present?
We'll do the staff overview first,
Okay.
and then the applicant.
All right. If this presenting staff would like to step up.
And just to clarify, this, I think, is a little bit of a change. This is part of our new process now that gives the staff the opportunity
And
to,
that's what I was looking for, and I'm reading this.
Maybe
and it
you have an
looked like
outdated-
it was, well, this is what you handed me.
okay. Well, I have the new version, so I'm
Okay.
not helping you out a whole lot.
And I'm reading through this, and it looks just like the old version. All right. That looks better. Now I'm on the same page as you. Ms. Wendy, if you'd like to proceed, thank you.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, board members, this application, you have several applications before you. You have 6 applications, and just to go over briefly, you have 3 plan amendment requests and 3 rezoning requests. And this is a result of the property being annexed into the city back in May. And so now, as a part of that process, we have to bring all the properties into conformance with the City of Newberry's comprehensive plan and land development regulations. So at this time, they have the county's designation from when they were in the incorporated area. So as a part of that, we go through a comprehensive plan amendment, and the comprehensive plan is like the Constitution, and then the zoning is like the law. So you're implementing the comprehensive plan by adopting your zoning. And so we're going to go through that process. So the first item, actually the first few items, the comprehensive plan amendments, this shows you the location of those properties. But you've got the first item that you're going to look at, the CPA 19-03. That's further to the west, and that's owned by Pat Post and Turlington Trust. And in that application, we take the next one. Well, just so you can look at it briefly. If you see that the first one further on the west, and then you've got the CPA 19-04 that is, you can see kind of a little bit to the east, and then up a little bit to the northeast. You've got the third one, which is a comprehensive plan amendment, which is a small-scale plan amendment, and that's a little bit different than the large-scale in the sense that it's just treated differently as far as when it becomes effective and how it relates to the rezoning. So we'll talk about that a little bit. But these first couple, we'll look at how it looks in the overall map of the county. You see it further over on the western side, on the north and south side of Newberry Road, near the county line. And this is the future land use map that you're seeing. And both of those, there's two properties, or two owners in this application. It's a total of 231.03 acres that was recently annexed. And that property you can see there in the circle there that designates the two applications that are associated. And the applicants, now that they're annexed in, with the property is annexed in, the county's designation of rural agriculture needs to be changed to the city's designation of agriculture. And that typically whenever you figure that out is whatever's the closest district, closest designation in the future land use. And so this is just an application to change that land use. And you have a section in your report that shows you the comparison with the county's regulations and then the cities as far as the comp plan and the designation being agriculture, and how they have the same density of 1 unit per 5 acres as a whole, and then how it works with those conditions. And they're placed in the comp plan, and that's where they are, so you can read them. They're in your packet, and the recommendation of staff is for approval, and you have that ordinance, the draft ordinance, in your packet. So if you have any questions about that, at the end of that ordinance, it does provide for the effective date of the ordinance for the comprehensive plan amendments, so that it accounts for if for some reason once we went through the process and you approved it and the commission approved it, and then it gets transmitted to the state for their review. And if for some reason something got challenged or something didn't get approved by them, then that ordinance says that even though it says it's effective, but it's contingent upon that approval from the state going through that process. So just kind of hold that in place. If you have any questions, I will be happy to try to answer them.
Anybody have any questions for staff?
I just have one question. This is probably more for legal. Is it possible to approve the LDR and the zoning atlas change in the same motion? Or
Yes.
It is?
Yes.
Okay. So we can do items A and B together?
I see what you're saying. I think for clarity on the record, we probably should do two separate motions. I apologize. In fact, actually, what I would recommend here, I know this sounds a little bit too procedural, but we really should address the application CPA 19-03 first. As far as the second hearing, the LDR 1908, I think the question is there any new evidence beyond what we've already heard? If there's not, then I think another motion can be made at that time.
Without going through the whole
Exactly.
quasi-judicial
Right.
Procedures.
Yes.
That would be great.
Okay.
Otherwise, we'll be here all night.
So
6 of them.
I can't completely accommodate your request there, but
Okay.
somewhat. Yeah.
All right. Do we have any public comments then at this point on CPA 19-03? All right. Still no applicant present to speak on behalf of CPA 19-03? And again, nobody's got any questions for staff. Any other questions? Got me okay? All right. Applicant's not here for any final arguments. Let's do that. All right, so at this point, we will deliberate amongst the board. If there's any, you guys want to discuss anything about this? Does somebody want to make a motion?
Gavin understood, is this your first meeting?
Second.
Oh, okay, yeah, I guess I missed one. But, we don't really have much going on tonight. If you have any questions about anything, feel free.
It's a good time to ask questions.
I do have a question for staff, I guess, and this is just a procedural question. Wendy, you mentioned that the board had met and reviewed these prior to the vote going in front of the commission to allow these properties to annex into the city. Is that correct?
The board had,
The
it's gone
planning
through a
board
public.
has seen the applications once prior to the city commissioners voting on annexation?
They don't go
No?
through to the planning and zoning board for annexation
Okay.
process. It went to the city commission.
So when I got the packet and was reviewing it, I was a little confused on the procedure of why the commission votes to annex the properties in, but then if the board today were to vote not to approve the zoning change, the owners would be left in limbo. So why is it not part of the application to present a zoning change contingent upon being annexed into the city by the commissioners?
Well, typically, the process is annexation first, like you're saying,
Correct.
and then going ahead and bringing it into conformance. Normally, the city would take the application through and rezone it,
Mhm.
put the future land use on and rezone it so that it complies with our plan.
Mhm.
So typically, it's,
But I guess the assumption is
The
that
city
we're going to
takes
approve
care of
all
it.
of these applications based on the fact that the commissioners have approved the annexation. If we were to disagree with that, it would cause a disruption. I guess, is there a way to
It would
change the
mean-
process a little bit?
I don't know, that maybe legal could speak to that.
I think it's a
Um,
point well taken. I think, you know, applications moving forward, that's something we can consider, or staff can consider, is that maybe you go back to the applicant and suggest that it be contingent on that, and it be brought to the commission in that regard too. But you're absolutely right. But
Okay.
I mean, typically, this is how the procedure has always worked.
Mhm.
I mean, you're pointing out something though that could be cleaned up.
Okay. That's my only question.
And one of the things that I've noticed, this is simply, basically just a cleanup procedure at this point, because we've annexed a part of the county into our city, and we're basically doing a one-for-one
Right.
zoning change.
That's correct.
Or land development change. I mean, it's not like we're taking an agriculture and making it heavy industrial or something like
Right.
that. So,
So what would be
Yeah.
hypothetically, if we were to vote not to approve the zoning changes tonight, what would be the process for the applicant next?
Then well, it's still in the city, and it would maintain the county's designation, and we would follow the county's plan
Mhm.
to enforce that. And that's what's typically done. So a lot of times when properties are brought in and then they're not zoned or they're not in comprehensive plan
Mhm.
category that they need to be, and in the meantime, we always follow the county's plan, and the
Okay.
process has been that that's the case. My understanding was that when annexation, I thought the law was that you were bringing the property in, that it was set out in the statute, that you brought the property in through annexation, and then you had to do the comprehensive plan and the rezoning. If we could do it any other way, or all at once, it'd be great, but I'm unaware of that.
Speaking with Brian, as this dialogue's been going on, he makes a good point. Keep in mind, planning and zoning is advisory only to the commission, so if the applicant doesn't get the result that it's seeking tonight, for instance, it can appeal it to the commission anyway, and
Right.
ask for consideration at that level. So that would be one of the options that the applicant would have.
Right. Yeah, I just think for sake of staff's time spent on the issue, it may be better moving forward to, if we can structure the process a little bit differently.
Yeah, I agree. I think, we've moved over the last year to try to streamline the process, and this might be another area we could look at. Wendy's going, oh boy, another project I can work on.
And my question is, I thought it was statutory. I mean, that the Florida statutes speak to that and say that that's the process that we go through. So if it's something else, then we would like to know.
No,
So-
I think
But-
you're right in terms of following the annexation process. I mean, this is step one, but I think what's being asked is, can that be a contingency that it's also going to have the zoning and comp plan changes along with that?
But it is.
Right.
I mean, because you have an understanding that your comprehensive plan and your zoning is going to be brought into conformance. But it is true that when things come through, let's say when Gatorback came through or something, when you have something that's annexed in and there's a special exception that has to approve the process, the person understands when they come in what they have, under the county, and then what they're asking for, and that when they do open that up, and if it's something like that, it does open it up for changes, and there were changes in that. So it's an ability, once the city brings it in, to have some impact on that if there is some use that's of concern, or if there's perhaps there has been, like when an applicant requests something different, and then you go through that process and look at that. But your point is well taken. I agree that I'd like to do something like that.
But the major issue would be not now, not tonight with what we're doing here, because it's already, the land use is already done. If the applicants wanted to put a Winn-Dixie in or something, then that's when it would come to this board before it would go to the commission.
Right, if there was a request for something different, of course, it would come before you and go to commission after that. Right.
I'm still learning, but I appreciate the
Right.
feedback.
Oh, good input.
You
That's good.
can't learn without asking questions. Is there any other discussion that we need to have? Any other questions for staff, legal?
Oh, wait, I have one other question, Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am?
Wendy, on A, and I think it's on B also, but on A, about the last line, where it says Alachua County future land use of rural agriculture to City of Newberry use classification of ag. I don't know the difference in rural ag and the classification of just ag.
Mr. Chair, in your packet, you have a data and analysis, if you will, and in that, on I think the page is numbered. On page 3, you have the policy that's from the Alachua County Comprehensive Plan, policy 6.2, that talks about rural agriculture and defines what that means under their comprehensive plan. And then below that, you have the City of Newberry Comprehensive Plan excerpt that talks about the agriculture land use category. And then and when you look at each of them, they each speak to the density of a maximum being allowed of 1 unit per 5 acres. And then they have a provision for certain kinds of development that's similar, both in the city and the county. The county calls theirs, they deal with having an increased density that's allowed if you go through the planned development, transfer development rights process. And the city, we have our process that's on your page 4 that's described, that talks about the planned rural residential development that allows for anything that's over 25 lots, and you can go down to 1 acre in size. And it goes through it's a planned development process, so it'd come back before you if anyone were to ask for that. But overall, the density is the same for both districts, and both allow the agricultural pursuits. So the agriculture is just the name that the City of Newberry uses in their comp plan, and rural/agriculture is what the county uses.
And that doesn't change the 1 dwelling per 5 acres.
Right, it's the same.
It's basically taking an orange and comparing it to the closest orange that we have, and still having that orange.
Thank you.
You're welcome, thank you.
All right, anything else?
Mr. Chair, I move that we recommend to the City Commission approval of application CPA 1903.
All right. I have a motion on the floor. Is there anyone in the public want to speak to the motion on the floor? All right, there being none, we have a motion.
Second.
And a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, 3 ayes. Motion passes. All right. Takes us to B, quasi judicial public hearing, application LDR 19-08, which is an application by Pat M. Post and Toby Barton Turlington, trust owners, to amend the official zoning atlas of the city of Newberry by changing the zoning from Alachua County Agriculture A to City of Newberry Agriculture A on properties recently annexed into the city as shown on the location map below and identified by Alachua County parcel numbers 02515-003-008, 2515-004-000, 2515-004-001, and 2515-004-002. Now, if we wanted to move to a motion straight away with, unless there's any other evidence presented, what can the board do at this point?
So what I would ask here is whether the staff has anything further to add as far as the overview that's already given on this.
Mr. Chair, this is just the zoning to implement the comprehensive plan. So it is from agriculture in the county to agriculture, which we call agricultural in our zoning code, with the same uses.
Okay, so no other additional information or evidence that staff would need to or have to present?
It's in an area that's consistent with the zoning around it and uses.
I was just figuring out if we're going to have to go through the whole procedure.
No, and then what I would also ask to anybody here tonight, if there's any other, whether it's the applicant or members of the public, any experts, anybody else who has anything further to offer on this issue that we have not already heard. Assuming none, I think you can deliberate and potentially entertain a motion here.
Okay.
I have something to say, but I don't know if
Which agenda item
it's
is
going
it?
to be for the Coleman and Coleman.
Okay, that'll be up.
Okay.
That'll be up.
Okay, so I was just thinking that it pertained.
Okay, we good. All right, at this point, is there anyone in the public that would like to speak to LDR 19-08? There being none, we will allow the board to deliberate.
Mr. Chair, if there's no deliberations, then I would recommend that the City Commission approval. I move to recommend that the City Commission approve application LDR 1908.
All right, is there a second? All right, we got a motion and a second. Is there anyone in the public who would like to speak to the motion on the floor? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, 3 ayes, passes. And this will be first heard by the commission on July 22nd as well. All right, takes us to quasi-judicial public hearing, or another one. This is application CPA 19-04. It's an application by Coleman and Coleman owners to amend future land use plan map of the comprehensive plan by changing the land use on property previously voluntarily annexed to the city as shown on the location map below and identified by Alachua County parcel numbers 02514 000-000 from Alachua County future land use rural agriculture to City of Newberry land use classification of agriculture. If this passes, it will first be heard by the commissioners on July 22nd as well. So at this time, does staff have an overview? Or would they like to present their overview?
Mr. Chair, this application by Coleman and Coleman, it is property that was annexed back in May, and it is to bring the future land use into conformance with the cities. It's rural agriculture under the county, and it's will be changed to agriculture in the city. So you see it before you, it's 93.55 acres, and the location being south of Newberry Road. And in the blue, it shows you where that property is. And then the recommendation of staff is for approval.
Is the applicant present to make it, to speak on behalf of their application? They've got no time limit. All right. Any third-party interveners? No time limit. Any public comments on this application? Go ahead, if you could, step up and state your name, please, sir.
Don Willis. I am in the middle of Coleman's property. And I want to find out if this is going to have any, how would I say it, any problem with is my property going to be involved at all in this procedure? Since I am swallowed up by this piece of Coleman's property. I am not, as far as I know, I'm not in the city of Newberry.
Okay,
Can you point out on the map where your property is?
Right there in the darn middle.
Wendy, you got the pointer there?
25, 14, 10, Bubba.
Let's see if I can highlight it.
I got two pieces. There you go, these two parcels
Yeah.
right there. You become
it becomes an enclave.
Well, they've been telling me I was that for a long time, but no, I've not even got any information on the annexation that was voted on.
You should have,
I've not heard nothing.
you should have had a bailout. This is the name, should be here in the village list.
Well, this would be on just for tonight, so it won't be on
Well, usually,
the,
let's usually give us a copy of the mail out.
Now, I've got one from Coleman, but I don't have,
But you have boundaries in your packet of the mail out. I don't believe he's within 1,000 feet of.
He's surrounded by.
He's
Well,
Yeah.
in Coleman,
Adjacent.
you should have gotten the mail with Coleman, but not the first one.
Well, we're on the Coleman.
Right, you should have gotten the letter.
I've got the notice that Coleman's trying to go into Newberry, but I don't have any information whether my property was annexed. I didn't volunteer, so I have no information on.
Brian will have your answers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The properties not included in this, in these three actions tonight are not being brought into the city of Newberry. They have not been annexed. We did go through a referendum process that took this entire pocket area and asked the voters who live there and are registered voters to join the city of Newberry. That referendum failed, and so this is strictly the parcels that wanted to come in through voluntary means. And so Mr. Coleman's property would not be affected by this. Essentially, he is an enclave. He's still in the unincorporated Alachua County
Mr.
portion.
Willis's property.
I mean Willis, I'm sorry, not Copeland. Mr. Willis's property is in the unincorporated Alachua County area still, and would still be governed by all of the land use regulations that the county imposes. So it would not have any direct effect on him at all.
Well, you know, we're trying to get rid of the annexes, right? I mean, the enclaves. Because you know, you're served by the county, county fire department instead of city fire department. But, I mean, we're under contract to serve that, either whether we're working for the county or working for the city of Newberry. Street and road maintenance would be a problem, but I think we've got that all worked out with the county, where we've got maintenance maps where we determine what roads the county's gonna do and what roads we're gonna do, but it would be.
I live on private road now.
Oh, okay, well then you're not affected at all.
So, Mr. Chair, that is one of the challenges that we face in trying to eliminate the enclaves. We've been working with the county over the enclave issue for a while now, and we've committed to try to eliminate these as best we can, but strictly on a voluntary basis. We don't have, or the two commissions are not interested in forcing any involuntary annexations at this time. And so until such a time as somebody changes their mind or through some sort of Part 2 interlocal agreement, the city and county decide to work together to eliminate all of those through involuntary annexation, there will not be any forced annexation.
Mr. Chair, if I could, just like to say to Mr. Wills, we'd love to have you annex into the city. It would make things maybe a little more convenient for you. I think right now your taxes would be just a fraction of a mil lower.
I'm not worried about that.
But it's voluntary right now, so it's up to you.
As I say, I hadn't heard any information on what the results were.
He could still come in if he wants to.
No, I don't know. So if that has no bearing on my property at all, I've got no reason to.
But if you decided at a later date that you wanted to come into the city, you still can do, you still have that option.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Anytime.
I know.
Anytime, right.
All right, any more public comment?
Kevin Knudsen. I own one of the properties just south. This little guy right here. And Kevin Coleman has an easement roadway right there. And so was just curious because right now that road's private and we have to maintain it ourselves. Is the city of Newberry going to start maintaining that road or no?
Again, Brian?
Because it's Kevin Coleman that owns that whole easement, and so I mean,
Mr. Chair, nothing related to the annexation process or land use changes or rezoning into the city of Newberry is have any bearing on that. The only way that the city of Newberry would take over a private road like that is if it was dedicated by the owner and also brought up to a certain standard prior to acceptance. As a general rule, the city and county and other municipalities are generally the same. You don't accept a undeveloped road or just a graded road. It has to be brought up to a certain paved standard before the city will then take it over and agree to perpetual future maintenance. And so at this time, I'm not aware of any negotiations that the city would be interested in taking over that road.
Okay.
And so what would be maybe some of the benefits if we were to switch to City of Newberry agricultural?
Can I speak to that? I own property out on the east of town off of Highway 26, and a number of years ago, I thought that I didn't want change, that's one. But we decided to go ahead and come into the city of Newberry. That didn't change our water, we still have a well, didn't change sewer, I shouldn't tell anybody, we're still on septic, right? Our taxes are lower, and it's easier to deal with my hometown commissioners than it is to deal with the Alachua County commissioners. And I really have been very pleased that we made that decision and choice.
Okay. Do you know of any negative effects?
Mr. Chair, can I make a comment as well?
Absolutely.
I used to be a building contractor, and I know if you want to build something, it is much easier to deal with the city of Newberry. You walk down to the Little Red Schoolhouse, sometimes you can get a permit for a shed or something like that approved while you're standing there, compared to the county, which you got to go to downtown Gainesville with your hat in your hand and wait for maybe months to get a permit.
That's interesting because we did get a permit for one of our buildings, but we did it through City of Newberry, even though we're not.
No, your city, that's what I'm looking at.
Is
Knudsen
it?
and Knudsen?
Is it City of Newberry?
Yeah.
Oh,
Knudsen, Knudsen, and Knudsen?
yep.
Welcome to Newberry.
Welcome to Newberry.
Knudsen? That's, I was trying to get his attention.
Yeah, well, he can't hear.
Okay. Look, right here.
Pardon?
carry on.
Well, welcome.
See how painless annexation really is?
We've only owned the property for less than 2 years, so.
You can
Okay.
also vote in the city of Newberry.
Yes, you can vote here very easily, Methodist Church or the municipal building. I forgot one other thing, and after being annexed in, we did build a home, and it was like, I don't even want to think what it would have been like to try to deal with the county, and I mean, we've just been really happy.
All right, any other public comments on LDR 1908? Or, excuse me, CPA 1904? We're getting all twisted tonight.
God, they're all on 04.
Mr. Chair, can I make a motion? or-
We are. Let me ask a couple things. So the applicant wasn't here to make a presentation. Does the staff have any other comments? Does the board have any other comments for staff?
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to address the lack of the applicants being here. And typically, these types of actions are considered cursory, and oftentimes they choose not to attend because it's, in their minds, just part of the process. And so staff kind of shepherds these through because it's, as to address your point earlier about you do the annexation ordinance first and then you do the land use change and the rezoning. It's considered almost a given because the commission's already voted to annex them in. So pretty obviously they're in favor of also changing the land use and the zoning. That's what, it's not that,
It's still a process.
exactly. And they were notified. It's just a matter of they just
Yeah.
didn't choose to be here.
All right. Well, at this time, we'll go ahead and allow the board to enter into deliberation. Ms. Linda, you got anything, any comments you want to
I'm
discuss?
good.
You need to discuss anything? Ms. Connor?
No?
All right.
And, Mr. Chairman, then I move that we recommend to the City Commission approval of application CPA 1904.
I got a motion and a second. Anyone in the public wish to comment on the motion on the floor? All right. There being no comment, all in favor, say aye.
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 All right. We got 3 ayes. Motion passes.
You're allowed to vote, you can vote now.
Oh, that's right. Aye. That's 4. We moved on. Thank you. All right. Takes us to our next item, which is a quasi-judicial public hearing for application LDR 19-09. It's an application by Coleman & Coleman owners to amend the official zoning atlas of the city of Newberry by changing the zoning from Alachua County Agriculture A to City of Newberry Agriculture A. Properly recently annexed into the city as shown on the location map and identified by Alachua County parcel number 02514-000-000. And if this passes, it will be heard by the commission on, or the first hearing will be by the commission on July 22nd. All right, Ms. Wendy?
Mr. Chair, this is the application for the rezoning that you're bringing into conformance with the comprehensive plan land use category of agriculture that you just recommended approval for. So staff's recommendation is for approval to, that you recommend to the City Commission approval of the application.
Okay. Is there any public comment regarding the application LDR 1909? All right, there being no public comment, is there any questions from the board to staff? All right, at this time, we're going to go ahead and deliberate, so we'll bring to the board to deliberate.
I've got nothing. No questions.
All right.
From a Robert's Rules standpoint, I would just recommend that when we get to this part on the deliberation, there actually should be a motion made and then discussions at that point on that motion. That would be the deliberation.
Correct. Well, at this point, I'm just waiting for a motion.
I was trying to fill the time for you while we got a motion. No.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, move to recommend the City Commission approval of application LDR 1909.
We got a motion? And a second. Any public comment to the motion on the floor? All right, there being no public comment, is there any discussion from the board on the motion on the floor?
I have nothing.
All right. There being no discussion from us, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes unanimous.
And this will be heard on the July.
As I announced, is it still the July 22nd
I believe so.
meeting, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, I had announced that prior,
Okay.
but thank you.
Apologize. Thank you.
We like to put it out there. All right, so our next item is another quasi-judicial public hearing. Application CPA 19-05. It's an application by Troy L. Fowler, agent for Vision Construction, Inc., owner, to amend the future land use plan map of comprehensive plan by changing the land use on property previously voluntarily annexed to the city, as shown on the location map below and identified by Alachua County parcel number 02514-006-000 from Alachua County future land use of rural agriculture to City of Newberry land use classification of agriculture. And if passed, it will first be heard by the City Commission on July 22nd, 2019. All right, at this time, does staff have their presentation?
Mr. Chair, this application is by Troy Fowler for Vision Construction. You see that the location being just to the west of 266, south of Southwest 90th. Property was annexed into the city in 2019, and the next steps after that, just like with the other, but this is a small scale because it's about 5.5 acres. You amend the future land use map. It's under 10 acres, so it is considered to be small scale. Technically, you could approve, under the statutes, approve a small scale plan amendment in one hearing, but the City of Newberry has their regulations that require 2 public hearings before the City Commission for approving an ordinance. And since we use the ordinance form to approve these kinds of actions. So it will go through 2 hearings before the City Commission, and then you'll hear the rezoning application as well after this for your recommendation, when noting that that's contingent upon the approval of the plan amendment as well. And staff's recommendation is for approval. The map right there just shows you the future land use, going from rural agriculture to agriculture, and staff recommendation.
All right, thank you. Is the applicant present to talk about this? There's no time limit?
No, there is no time.
That's why I know that. That's what I was just saying. There's no time limit. If he wanted to be, if they wanted to say something. All right. All right. So, we have any public comment on CPA 19-05? All right. There being no public comment, does the board have any questions for staff?
I have none.
All right, guess at this point, since the applicant is not here, we'll go ahead and enter into deliberations,
Motion first.
however you want to do it.
I would recommend a motion.
Yep.
Mr. Chair, I move that we recommend to the City Commission approval of application CPA 1905.
We got a motion? And a second. Is there anyone in the public would like to speak on behalf of the motion on the floor? All right. There being no one in the public to speak on this, does the board have any discussion to the motion?
None.
All right. There being no discussion on the motion from the board, all in favor say aye.
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 All right. It passes unanimous. And that takes us to F, which is our last agenda item, quasi-judicial public hearing again. And the rules will stay the same. It's application LDR 19-10. It's an application by Troy L. Fowler, agent for Vision Construction, Inc., owner, to amend the official zoning atlas of the city of Newberry by changing the zoning from Alachua County Agriculture, A, to City of Newberry Agriculture, A, on property recently annexed into the city as shown on the location map below and identified by Alachua County parcel number 02514-006-000. And again, this, if it passes, will be first heard by the commission on July 22nd, 2019. Staff?
Mr. Chair, this is a request to rezone the property from county agriculture county agriculture zoning category to the city's agriculture zoning category. You see the location on the map, just the same location as the comprehensive plan amendment map, and staff recommendation is for approval.
Anyone in the public wish to speak to application LDR 19-10? All right, there being none. Anybody on the board have questions for staff on LDR 19-10?
I have none.
All right. All right, so I guess we'll go ahead and enter into deliberations. Does anybody have a motion? Or would anybody like to make a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that we recommend to the City Commission approval of application LDR 19-10.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Is there anyone in the public would like to speak on behalf speak about the motion that is on the floor? All right, there being none. Does the board members have any discussion about the motion on the floor? All right. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion passes unanimous. And again, that'll be heard, the first hearing will be by the City Commission, will be on July 22nd, 2019. All right, so that takes us to topics from members for discussion. Ms. Linda, we'll start with you.
I have none.
Ms.
The
Mayor?
election of officers is one of the topics.
Okay. Ooh, I guess I almost missed that one here too. We're
We
missing.
tabled that.
Well, that was on the
Harb.
Harb.
Harb,
Okay. We can do one of two things. We can wait till all of our members are present and table this, or we can go ahead and run with election of officers.
I'll make a motion that we table it until everyone is present at the next meeting.
We got a motion? Second. All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. So, election of officers will be tabled till our next meeting, assuming everybody is there. All right.
And I didn't have any other topics.
You didn't have anything else? Mr. Gavin, did you have anything? All right, and I do not have anything. Brings us to, we are adjourned.
Brian, I have a question, but I didn't want to ask it out loud.